Burrs, and I'm going to be your host for the entire FIFA World Cup 2022. We'll be posting daily predictions, betting tips on this channel, so if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future content. Before we dive into the England-Iran game, Senegal-Netherlands, and USA-Wales, I have an offer for you from BetMGM. All you have to do is deposit $10, bet $10, and if either team scores in the World Cup, so let's say you bet on England, Iran, and if just England score, then BetMGM will give you $200 in your bankroll. It's basically free money. Bet on a massive favorite, and you should be getting $200 in your account. So click the link in the description below, or it'll be pinned in the first comment. Without further ado, let's jump into the England versus Iran game. Now, heading into this game, Iran are officially the best Asian team on the planet. They've only lost one competitive game in the last 3 years, and they're coming up against England, who are the clear favorites to not only top this group, but to win this game. We know the form that England have been in lately. They didn't win a game in the Nations League, losing 2 to Hungary and 1 to Italy. Gareth Southgate needs to turn this around, find some energy from somewhere, because the first game is very, very important. If England beat Iran, they sort of have half a foot into the knockout stages. Players like Harry Kane, the 2018 Golden Boot winner, Phil Foden, Saka, Grealish, Raheem Sterling are all going to have to come to the party, because we know how bad their attack has been of late. On the other side, Iran boast Taremi. Taremi has been in incredible form for Porto in the Champions League, scoring in his 5 last appearances. Iran are going to rely heavily on Taremi, and he's going to have to put some pressure on England if they are looking to beat them. England are not hot starters in the World Cup. In 2002 in their opener, they drew 1-1 to Sweden. In the 2006 opener, they just snuck past Uruguay 1-0. In 2010, they drew to the USA. 2014, they lost to Italy. And in 2018, they beat Tunisia 2-1 in injury time. So don't tell me this Iran team don't have a chance in this game. Now, I could see this being a low-scoring game, and eventually England get that last-minute goal. So my bet for this one is England to win and under 3.5 goals at odds of minus 145. Next up, Senegal taking on Netherlands. Now, this is the biggest clash in Group A. Obviously, Senegal being AFCON winners, Netherlands have been in great form themselves. Senegal do boast a good defense, but without Sadio Mane, they don't have that many attacking threats. We saw how bad they were in the round robin of the AFCON, not scoring many goals and just creeping into the knockout stages. Now, if you take away their main man, Sadio Mane, I don't see any way they can get through this very, very good Netherlands defense. Netherlands are 15 games unbeaten at the moment, and their defenders like Van Dijk, De Vrij, De Ligt, Dumfries, Timber, and Ake are not going to make it easy for the Senegalese attack to get through. Not only is Netherlands' defense good, but I think their attack is absolutely going to overwhelm the Senegalese defense with Memphis Depay, Gakpo, and Bergwijn. This Netherlands team is one of the most underrated teams, I think, in the competition, and I don't see any reason why they can't beat the Senegal team quite comfortably. So my prediction and betting tip for this is Netherlands to win 2-0, or Netherlands and both teams to score no at odds of plus 140. Then finally, the USA taking on Wales. Now, both of these teams will feel like they can make it into the knockout stages. It is a little bit strange that we're having sort of a deciding match for the group rounds.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome into Live Before Lock, as we are going to be here for the next 55-ish minutes for talk a little UFC Vegas 65. Of course, prelims start here at the top of the hour, main card, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, we are headlined by a heavyweight matchup between Derek Lewis and Sergey Spivac, and I've got a little narrative to throw out there about Derek Lewis. I see my guy Pete Rogers Jr. already shaking his head because he knows what the narrative is. Good afternoon, Pete. How you doing, bro?
What's going on? Yeah, I don't like the narrative based on my exposures, I'll tell you that, but that could change. What is up, everybody? How is everybody doing? It's nice to be back and breaking down a fight card with you guys, for you guys, with my co-host Jason Floyd. We enjoy breaking fights down. As always, Not a top tier card by any means, but it's a card, and there's money to be made. And it's the first card with the new addition to MMA DFS. So, Jason, let's get it over and done with. Thoughts on the new edition MMA late swap?
There's one positive for late swap. I don't know if there's two, but there's one positive. Mm-hmm. And that positive simply is if you do have a fight get canceled on fight day for whatever reason. I mean, look, it happens. You know, it could be something where maybe a fighter has been medically deemed not able to compete. And, from that aspect, because look, we've all sat there on our couch when that happens and we're like, son of a damn, like how many lineups do we have that fight and whatnot? That to me is the positive aspect of it. Outside of that, and I know I saw Alex tweet this earlier this week, and it was really spot on with this, is that what made MMA DFS great was the fact of once lock hit, you could just sit back, enjoy the fights. But now what's going to happen, let's just be honest about it, is that people are going to start looking at exposures. They're going to be putting things in spreadsheets, and they're going to try to start figuring out what are the fights that are not owned. So overall, like, I like it from the aspect of being able to change my lineups if a fight is canceled. However, overall, I'm just not a huge fan of late swapping MMA.
Yeah, so that's the one positive is, on the odd occurrence that a post-lock fight is canceled, and then we can pivot to something else. I think that should be the adjustment to MMA DFS, and that is the only way you can alter your lineups is if somebody is deemed out. Outside of that, the fight to fight, being able to modify your lineups and change them, I think is going to end up hurting a lot of casual players and benefiting a lot of stronger players that have a wider array of tools and bankroll at their disposal. So, it's going to be an adjustment period. I hope it's not a change that is forever. I think that this could be like a trial, and then following everybody's complaints, once they realize how negatively it's going to impact their lineups and their bankroll, I hope it reverts back, and the change is just if a fight is canceled. But regardless, we got to deal with it, unfortunately. And we're here to break down UFC Vegas 65. So Lewis and Spivac, Jason, we got a decent amount of people in here, almost 300. If you guys are happy to have us back for a live before lock show, please get us to 100 likes. If you guys do that, shoot your questions into chat so we can start breaking it down.
Of course, we are sponsored by PrizePicks. We'll talk about some of those props over at PrizePicks later on in the show, because there are some props over at PrizePicks I really do like, especially on the takedown side over at PrizePicks. We'll talk about that a little bit later on the show. Of course, be sure to smash that like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, you got to subscribe to the channel, man. We got you covered each and every day for all your DFS needs, so you know about everything that's going on over here at Stokastic.com. So be sure to smash that. And of course, if you miss any of our strategy shows throughout the week, NBA, NHL, those are a part of the podcast network, so you can check that out. Be sure to subscribe to Stokastic on your favorite podcasting platform. Maybe that's Apple Podcasts, maybe that's Spotify, wherever you like to check out your podcast, or you can just check everything out right here on YouTube. And of course, we hit that like button, man. That really does help myself and Pete out a ton. So of course, we appreciate everyone tuning in here. Talking about yesterday at the weigh-ins, everyone makes weight. To me, the two takeaways, my first takeaway has to go with the last fighter that stepped on the scale, and that was Ricky Turcios, who he steps on the scale, and Pete, he had that facial expression of like, oh, thank God. Like, he just had that look of like, I think I'm all weight. I'm not quite sure. And he just, as Jeff Mullen announced his weight is 136 pounds, you just see him look up, go, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand what goes into a weight cut. I still think that there's no real reason to miss weight, but that doesn't, make it any easier. Like, cutting weight, especially the last two pounds, is the worst. So it's nice to have that sigh of relief when you step on the scale and it's official. And it goes to show you that a lot of these athletes are cutting a tremendous amount of weight.
Now, when the Black Beast, Derek Lewis, stepped on the scale, Pete, I thought he looked good on the scale. Now, here is where Narrative Street comes into the equation. I know you don't like this Narrative Street. And look, sometimes narratives don't exactly work out well. Saw this on Twitter earlier because I was actually looking for a picture of Derek Lewis from the weigh-ins because I thought he actually looked pretty good on the weigh-ins. And, look, with Derek Lewis, you really never know of what he is going to really, from a health aspect, look like going to the fight. But if you go over to Wikipedia, you pull up Derek Lewis's Wikipedia profile, you look at his wins and losses, Pete, there's something that sticks out. Derek Lewis has had 8 fights in Las Vegas. The Black Beast is 8-0 in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I don't like hearing that. I think it's a must roster fight. And just the way I see it going, whether Spivac's going to incorporate takedowns early, which he needs to, and his style of takedowns, I think could make it a little bit safer than somebody who's shooting a traditional double leg, like a Curtis Blades running into an uppercut. Yeah, I'm not going to be siding too much with Derek Lewis, but obviously I'm going to have some exposure.
I was 80% exposure on this fight.
I think that's about right. I do think that's about right. But I still like Spivac, and we started to see that, the aging Derek Lewis is quitting at times, getting hit with some big shots, and his durability has been in question. And, outside of just having that superhuman strength to stand up whenever he wants, there's a significant skill gap on the mat. So I really like Spivac.
The one thing that I will say in terms of a game theory aspect, in terms of this main event, like, to me, it is a must roster fight in terms of this. If you don't want to get 100% fine, as I mentioned, I'm at 80% ownership on this main event. It's because you look at it from the Sergey Spivak side, we see the takedown upside, and we know how big takedowns and grappling are in terms of the DK scoring system.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other side, Derek Lewis is a boom bust play. If he can land that right hand, he's a boom play. But look, if he does not get a victory here, which look, I do like Sergey Spivak to win this fight, even though the Narrative Street says take Derek Lewis. It's from a fantasy score upside. You want to get both sides of this fight.
Yeah. So that's where where we have to make a pick. I'm going to be picking Sergey Spivak, but that doesn't mean I'm not playing Derek Lewis. It's a fight where I just view it as having optimal implications. There's 5 rounds. I don't expect it to go 5 rounds or anywhere close. I think the later it goes, the more it really starts to work towards Spivak's advantage. It's crazy because Derek Lewis can be losing 95% of the fight and land one shot and it's over. So that's what makes heavyweight MMA so volatile.
I will tell you this, because of late swap, I really did want to play on FanDuel today, but I just didn't really love the prize pools over at FanDuel today. Now, when I was looking at our projections over at Stokastic.com, of course, that's when you're a member over at Stokastic.com, you get that top fire tool, and you can look at all the great tools and data we have in helping developing these lineups. And, look, the first thing that stuck out to me when I was looking at the top fire tool was MVP. Look, we all know where MVP is going, whether it's Jack Della Maddalena, Sergey Spivak. So when I'm talking about game theory over on FanDuel, if you're a multi-entry player, do I want to have them in MVP spots? Yes, but I want to try to get contrarian over on FanDuel in that MVP spot. But my question, I was looking at saying is, okay, if I don't go Spivak, I don't go Jack Della Maddalena as the MVP, where do I go, Pete?
Yeah, I don't. It's a little tricky, and it's I like the ceiling of a lot of fighters, but that doesn't mean that I trust them. I really like Brady. He stands ceiling, but the reality is he's relatively untested. The Ultimate Fighter, he displayed some excellent performances, but I don't like picking fighters going up against Fortis MMA and Saif Saud. So we shall see how he does against Fernie Garcia. So I personally think FanDuel is dropping the ball, and perhaps within the next couple of weeks, they need to, significantly up their contests, because a ton of players are frustrated with DraftKings. A ton of people are frustrated with the decision, And what that could do is it could lead to a lot of players pivoting to a different scoring system or pivoting to another platform. If I'm a part of FanDuel, I am pumping out huge contests left and right, trying to lure everybody towards our site. So, I mean, FanDuel, if you're listening, you better make some changes, just because, like, we don't want MMA DFS to kind of fizzle out. We want it to continue to grow.
Yeah, I mean, what you think about with Brady is that takedown upside. We saw in his UFC debut, the loss against Ricky Turcios, even in a 15-minute decision loss, he landed 6 takedowns. So if he can go out there and replicate that in a win, that has a chance to be a massive score. We talked about this yesterday, Pete, that first fight of the night. I think that's a fight that could be a sneaky MVP.
Yeah, I do think it is. Yeah, I would agree with you. Just one way or another, like I think that even the Turcios fight, just the pace. Sometimes if you're basing your MVP selections on inside the distance odds, that's a great way to do it. In combination with actual odds, so like Jack Della Maddalena clearly looks like the best MVP play everywhere, especially on FanDuel where he's not really priced up. So I don't want to get too cute in a situation like that. But if you can find a fighter that is getting glossed over and you think that they have a decent chance of winning inside the distance, that's how you need to really start to, select your captains. Tailor it towards a handful. Try not to spread yourself too thin. I like to pick about 3 to 5 and then, get different elsewhere. But clearly Jack Della Maddalena is the pound for pound best play on FanDuel today.
Looking at the utility ownership that we're projecting over on FanDuel, there's 2 fighters that stick out to me who are both under 20%. Muslim Salikov, just because, now look, high volatility in that fight. Either one of those guys could, easily knock each other out. And the other one, me, is, and God, I keep telling myself, Jason, why do you keep talking this guy up? He has a great chance of disappointing you. Chase Sherman.
Oh man, yeah. Jason might listen. If Sherman wins, Jason needs to get a Chase Sherman t-shirt, because I've heard nothing but Chase Sherman talk all week from him. And
okay.
Yeah, I think it's fair though. It's fair. Go ahead.
Stylistically, he's not going up against someone who's looking to grapple him. So I would not expect Waldo Cortez Acosta to grapple him. He is a boxer. My expectation is this is a fight that's going to play out on the feet. So stylistically, I think it's a right matchup for Chase Sherman. It's not against someone that's just looking to grapple him to death.
Yeah, I mean, you got the chat agreeing with you, and I don't hate Sherman at all, especially because he's a better leg kicker than Jared Vanderaa. And Jared Vanderaa started to butcher that lead leg of Acosta, who showed no intelligence of how to check a kick. And I will tell you that checking kicks, you can practice it, but implementing it under the lights in competition is very difficult because it's a timing-based technique. A great counter to a leg kick is a straight right hand down the middle. But if you are, missing that window of opportunity, you really should start to work on your defense. So it's tough to really like learn the craft of defensive striking only a couple weeks after a disappointing performance against Jared Vanderaa. I thought that he should have been able to go out there and finish him if he's such a prolific boxer and heavy-handed striker. So now you got Sherman in there going up against him, who enjoys striking, loves to strike. And if you go back and you think of, Ike Villanueva, like, bad fighter for the UFC by all means, but he hits hard. And, you saw Chase Sherman just chopping legs, and just his Muay Thai in that fight shows that, he's comfortable to stand and trade. He just has to avoid that big shot.
Now, if you're looking to make a bet on these fights, you got to check out our friends over at BetMGM. They got a great promo going on right now. And I was looking at some of the prop bets over at BetMGM a little bit earlier today, Pete. And Chase Sherman wins via decision plus 600.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think that this could be a sneaky heavyweight decision fight, where it's a sloppy, ugly one where, kind of like very similar to how the Jared Vanderaa was against Acosta. Sherman was able to get rid of Jared Vanderaa, which I think is interesting. That's MMA math, but it's something to note that Sherman is dangerous enough to have success in his wheelhouse of striking.
And mention about the special bet MGM has going on right now for you, where you get a risk-free bet plus 2 months of Stokastic Platinum free. Yeah, you heard that right. And I'm going to tell you a 3-fighter parlay. I like Pete. I'm interested to see if Pete likes my 3-fighter parlay. So get 2 free months of Stokastic plus Platinum and up to a $1,000 risk-free bet when you sign up, make a deposit, and make your first paid wager at BetMGM. Check the show notes for everything you got to do to take advantage of this offer. You see it right there on the screen as you follow the simple steps that are in the description below here. I'll give you my 3-fighter parlay. Pulled all these lines over at BetMGM. Jack Della Maddalena wins via TKO KO -175. Ricky Turcios take the money line to win -165. And gave Brady Hindstand -175. So that 3-fighter parlay pays 2 plus 297, Pete.
Yeah, I don't hate it at all. So much money is coming in on some of those lines, so we might find different lines than that. But I think the general consensus, I like that. I like where your head's at. I like Jack Della Maddalena, and I can't preface it enough and state it enough. Just the -675s. Now that he's -675, it's tough to get to. So what I like to do is I'm going to be, getting to Jack Della Maddalena inside the distance, combining that with a fighter that I am not so confident in, but I do think has a physical advantage over Vanessa Demopoulos, and that's Maria Oliveira, who sits at a pick'em. I do think that, Vanessa Demopoulos is clearly the A side if the fight hits the mat, but she has to get it to the mat. And being a part of Fight Ready, I'm sure that they're working on developing her skills. I just haven't seen it inside the octagon yet, as far as a takedown standpoint is concerned. She went 1 of 7 against Jin Yu Frey in a previous performance. I think that what I've seen from Maria Oliveira, not the best fighter by any means, but I view this as low-level women's MMA. I think that the straight punches are going to be enough on the feet to kind of like beat up Vanessa Demopoulos en route to a victory there. And then my final piece of the fight, of the parlay, I'm going to be going to a guy that a lot of people are off this week and have no confidence in. I don't know if confident is the word I have, but I just think that the line is a little too wide. And it's going to be Ion Cutelaba sitting there at +145. I go back and I look at the Dustin Jacoby performance, and he was able to, even in round 2, round 3, go out there and push a pace. Yes, he's susceptible to getting finished, and coming off of a submission defeat to Johnny Walker is something that I do not like. But I think that he has no choice but to close the gap against Kennedy Nzechukwu, incorporate takedowns, and he can land more than a handful of takedowns against Kennedy Nzechukwu and win minutes based on control en route to possible TKO or submission finish. Obviously, we worry about his cardio, but if you parlay those 3, Jack Della Maddalena inside the distance, Maria Oliveira, which is kind of like the head scratcher, and then Ion Cutelaba at +145, you get +534. I don't mind it.
Of course, be sure to take advantage of that promo. You see it right there at the bottom of the screen with BetMGM. When you want to make a bet on today's UFC fights, get a risk-free bet plus 2 months of Stokastic plus Platinum, and that's a $1,000 risk-free bet when you sign up, make a deposit, and make your first paid wager at BetMGM. Of course, you just got to follow the simple steps to take advantage of the promotion. Check that out below. Of course, you do got to create a BetMGM Sportsbook account, deposit at least $10, make your first paid bet, and your bet must settle to qualify for the Stokastic subscription. So check out those details in the video link below. Of course, I do want to get in some super chats that we got in here already here. Jorge, appreciate it, man. He says, who is your top 2 fighters for single entry on DK and best contrarian? Look, how do you not start with Jack Della Maddalena?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of underdogs are going to come through this week. And when underdogs come through, you can pay up for the studs. And a lot of the favorites are kind of in tricky territory right here. So I'm going to say Jack Della Maddalena is number 1.
In terms of, for me, number 2, and this is where I really struggle, because obviously if I'm starting with Jack Della Maddalena, I'm at 9,600 on DraftKings. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, if I go to Sergey Spivac, now I really got to start, dumpster diving down low. You know who the guy is that I keep sitting to myself saying, is this the slate breaker? And you're not going to like what I'm going to say here. Charles Johnson.
Really, I hate that fight for DFS.
I'm wondering if he's going to be able to use his grappling.
I don't know, man. I like Zhalgas Zhumagulov coming from a good camp and American Top Team. Charles Johnson being able to keep the fight on the feet. He has good hands, good striking. But like when I go back and I see Zhalgas perform well against Jeff Molina, I think Jeff Molina is better than Charles Johnson. But that doesn't make that, that doesn't mean that Charles Johnson can't win this fight. A lot of people were picking Charles Johnson to beat Muhammad Mokaev, which is crazy. I will say that for me, the second fighter, if it's not Spivac, I'm torn between Ricky Tercios, who has completely disappointed in his debut against Ayman Zahabi, and Brady Hiestand. So it's like
Brady was my next option after Charles.
Yeah, and the one reason I'm not putting the stamp on Brady Hiestand, where I think a lot of people are from an ownership standpoint, the ceiling is massive. He has some of the best ceiling, like some of the highest ceiling out there. It's the fact that he's going up against Fortis MMA. Fernie Garcia is going to be prepared. Whether he can go out there and implement the correct strategy is another thing, but that Saif Saud is going to make sure that his guys are doing the correct things. Listen, we need to drill this. We need to work get-ups, wrist control, spinning, working for an underhook. Like, he's going to have everything there. It's just a matter of implementing it. So with massive ownership comes a ton of chalk. That's a ton of chalk on Brady for a guy that's relatively unproven. So I think in that 1-for-1 situation, I'd probably go to Ricky.
In terms of contrarian plays, and so I'm looking at fighters who are only 20%. So there's two fighters, and we've mentioned both these fighters already, and they're not named Chase Sherman, by the way.
Okay.
Maria Oliveira and Muslim Salikov.
My issue this week is that I think that a lot of fights are going to go the distance. So then we're going to come down to which distance fight is going to have the best score, and trying to predict the best score is very, very difficult. I think that Salikov has a sneaky KO chance because he's a sniper going up against a guy who's a brawler who makes a ton of mistakes and gets wobbled. Cameron Van Camp on 4 days notice, stepped up and hit Andre Fiala with a left hook that staggered him a little bit. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's not even a part of this natural weight class. I think Salikov's in a very sneaky spot to pick up a KO today. And a lot of people are down on him because he got knocked out against Jing Liang. So it's the balance of the age of Salikov and the wear and tear on the young tires of Andre Fiallo. So I'm leaning Salikov.
Yeah, another question coming in here from a super chat. My Phil Ark, appreciate it, man. Says, wait, why is DK bad? What happened? That's all about late swap there. There's going to be some people who like late swap, but I think overall, a majority of people are looking at the potential negative side of what late swap can be. And it also says, Sherman today, a good underdog. He's a good underdog for me, and it's based on the stylistic aspect of this matchup. He's taking on a boxer. He is a boxer. One of the things that when I look at Chase Sherman today, and I mean, look, when you look at Waldo Cortez Acosta, we just felt that the Jared Vanderaa fight was a great showcase fight, and it did not go the way we thought it would go. And we've seen Chase Sherman go out there and finish Jared Vanderaa. To me, it comes down to could the leg kicks of Chase Sherman, and like go back and like you mentioned about Zhalgas being ATT. And last night's Bellator card is an example of what coaching can really do for you. Go look at Vadim Nemkov, what he was able to do to stop, 18 takedown attempts, 18 takedown attempts. Corey Anderson couldn't get him to the ground, and he utilized leg kicks to take out the lead leg of Corey Anderson. And that's one of the things that I think if you're Chase Sherman, it's about leg kicking that lead leg of Waldo.
Yeah, I mean, you got to chop a little bit lower on these leg kicks because the higher up you go, the more susceptible you are to eating a straight right hand down the middle and getting, caught and put on your back. That's happened to Chase Sherman in the past. And, one catch of a leg kick and he's on his back, and that's where he's a fish out of water. Calf kicks, really low calf kicks are important and have changed the game for sure. But that's the issue, right? Is how fighters have performed in the past is not the set standard going forward. There's going to be development. There's going to be alterations throughout their camp, alterations with strategies, weight cuts, literally everything, and who shows up on the day of the fight. So like you can make a case for a lot of these fighters, and like Vadim Nemkov, fantastic athlete, fantastic fighter, has a good coaching staff around him that knew, listen, probably 90% of everything was take down the fence in that camp. 90%. Calf kicks, straight punches, and take down the fence. And, it worked wonders. So you have to, for your projections, you have to leave some room and bump some people because of development when they're a part of a good camp, like a Fernie Garcia. Fernie Garcia could be a guy who breaks the slate today when everybody's on the opposite side because he's coming from a good camp in Saif Saud.
Yeah. Clownin, appreciate your super chat. He says Sherman or Lewis. It's a good one, Pete. So if we're looking over DraftKings, we're talking about Derek Lewis at 7,000, Chase Sherman at 7,100. Now we are projecting Chase Sherman at lower ownership than Derek Lewis. Man, I think Derek Lewis potentially has I don't know, man. If Chase Sherman, if this is a 15-minute stand-up fight, he could rack up some volume. Neither one of them were takedowns. So yeah. I don't, but Derek Lewis has got that first round knockout upside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, this is not a card that I love by any means. So I think it's going to be a tricky optimal lineup. As far as who has the higher ceiling, I do think that Lewis has the higher ceiling because of his KO upside. And he's done it to everybody where he's been able to just defend the takedown and land a massive shot. As far as Sherman, he's going up against a relatively unproven guy coming off of his debut following the Dana White's Contender Series as well. So it's like, as far as like faith, I view both of them in the very bottom tier. But I will probably say in that 1-for-1, I might end up going Lewis from a ceiling standpoint. Mm-hmm. Whereas Sherman's in a lot of my lineups, but I'm okay with getting a 75-point performance, and I don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think that both of those guys are going to be options that people are looking at. Of course, this is live before lock. We're getting you ready for UFC Vegas 65, and we are sponsored by PrizePicks. You know about PrizePicks. They got their daily prop-based contest. You can do cross-sports entries, and I love playing over there for MMA. And, man, Pete, there are some interesting props over there at PrizePicks today. I will tell you, I think my favorite prop over at PrizePicks today is the over 1 takedown on Miles Johns, because he should go the takedown route. He's now at a new gym, different coaching staff. You look at his opponent wants to keep the fight on the feet. So that to me is my favorite play over at PrizePicks, is the over 1 takedown on Miles Johns.
Yeah, I mean, that should be the path to victory there. Picking a fight on short notice, you don't know how his shape is, but you'd like to think he's in good shape. Fighters that have faith in their cardio will go to the takedowns more so than others. If guys are worried about gassing out, you will see them being a little methodical and selective with their decisions when it comes to implementing takedowns. So I think he hits 1. I think he can easily hit more if that's his game plan. James Krause is all about game plans, but there's going to be an adjustment period with this camp. So I will probably still say over more than 1, just because I feel like at worst it probably pushes at 1.
It's been a rough couple weeks for James Krause. Let's just be honest about it.
Yeah, it sure has.
Been a little rough couple weeks for James Krause. Yeah. Okay, my second favorite prop over at PrizePicks today, I'm staying in the takedown route. Give me the under 1.5 takedowns on Maria Moroz, because, well, why would you go to the ground with Jennifer Maia?
Yeah, she shouldn't. She should volume strike her way to a decision. Avoid the big shots. If she looks to take down Jennifer Maia, I think that's where she could get swept, could get put in a bad spot and against a tricky guard. So I know that she's surrounded by talented black belts all the time at American Top Team, but that is clearly playing with fire when you go to the mat with Jennifer Maia.
Now, two other props I like. They're both with the same fighter. So maybe you like one more than the other. I would say I like one more than the other. And that's with Kennedy Nzechukwu. Significant strikes, 38.5. I like the more on that because I generally feel that this fight is going to go 3 rounds. I don't think this is a fight that ends quickly. I also like the over 7.5 minute fight time on Kennedy Nzechukwu. One of the you mentioned about this fight a little bit earlier. If you're Ian Cutelaba, you gotta cut that distance because Kennedy Nzechukwu has a 8.5 reach advantage, 8-inch reach advantage in this one. I think Nzechukwu is going to want to keep this fight on the outside. I think he's going to try a leg kick. Ian Cutelaba, he's just got to be a wild man. So I like the over 38.5 significant strikes on Nzechukwu, and I also like the over 7.5 fight time minutes.
I mean, I think, you have Cutelaba there with a massive reach disadvantage. He has no choice but to close the gap. If he stays at range, he's going to get hit with broomstick jabs. And like he needs to close that distance and have the same game plan he did against Dustin Jacoby, who's a massive human being and a much more talented striker than Kennedy Nzechukwu. So he had success in that fight. I don't know why he can't go out there and have success again. So I do like the over for Kennedy from the significant strikes. I am one of the guys that's backing Ian Cutelaba this week, just because I think this is a case of recency bias, and I view the line to be too wide. I understand why people are favoring Kennedy Nzechukwu, but I feel like it's kind of gone a little bit too far. We have some friends in chat talking about their exposures and whatnot. We have Aiden saying he has 100% Bleda. What could go wrong? That is one of the most interesting underdogs on the entire slate because of her massive size against Natalia Silva.
I'll also say over at PrizePicks, I know my guy Pete likes that significant strike prop on Ricky Turcios at 63.5.
Yeah, I mean, he threw 63.5. He landed 63.5 shots in the air last time and did not, have success closing the gap and actually landing on his opponent, which was extremely strange. Might have been worried about the counter of Ayman Zahabi, but if you go back and you look at Turcios's other fights, he smashes that number all day long.
Now, if you're like me and you live in a state where you can't place a wager on the fights, PrizePicks is a great place that you can play to get a little action in on the fights. You heard us talking about the props we like over there today. Of course, click the link in the description below to get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum and up to a $100 deposit match bonus when you sign up and make a deposit over at PrizePicks. Be sure to click that link in the video description below. Love playing over there on PrizePicks each and every week for UFC. I was hoping last night we might have a little, Bellator Force prelim props over there because, well, we know what those go like. We know.
Absolutely, of course we do.
A lot of early finishes over there on Bellator.
I'll tell you, your boy looked good.
Sullivan Collie?
Yeah, he looked good. That left hook that ended it, that kind of like on the ground, is a left hook, a short little left hook to the temple. And he was out from that shot. I couldn't believe it. I was like, that shot put him out. It was crazy. So he's really
he's a main training partner for Ryan Bader.
I bet you he beats Ryan Bader up in training. And if not, look at that. That's where, like, there's going to be a day where he starts having extreme success over Ryan Bader. I'm pretty sure I've heard stories where he's had a ton of success already against Bader. So this could be a changing of the guard in a couple of years.
Yeah, ceiling very high on there. Joe, appreciate the super chat. He goes, my dude Pete, for the question, smash that like. He goes, 9.2 left for the big GPP. Costa, Nzechukwu, or Johnson? Cortez. It should be Cortez.
So if you have 9.2, you know that if you go to Costa, a lot of people probably have that same build. I'm a big guy on Cutelaba today for exposure, but I do view the Nzechukwu fight, just the fight in general, as being a little interesting. the wildness of Kudalaba can work to his detriment at times. I don't like the Johnson call. I do not like the Johnson and Zhalga Zhumagulov from a DFS score standpoint. So for those three, I'd probably leave 400 on the table and go to Kennedy and Nzechukwu.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I when I was developing lineups this morning, it was kind of I was having that, okay, who are the favorites that have a chance to smash this slate that I wasn't getting to? Cortez Acosta was one of those guys.
Yeah.
The Nzechukwu Kutsalaba, that's one of those matchups, Pete, that I'm just like, man, I can see it going either way. I mean, I can see Kutsalaba landing just takedowns and just smashing the slate because of the grappling. You want to get to the main event. Obviously, I was getting plenty of there. I was getting a plenty Jack Della Maddalena. There's one crunch I had for a 20 max. I had 19 of the 20 lines with Jack Della Maddalena.
I mean, it's a spot where if you don't have confidence on a lot of other favorites, just take the points, because I would be absolutely shocked if he loses today. Outside of a Hail Mary KO or getting controlled via wrestling, I just still don't see it. I just think that Jack Della is going to at least pick up a dub. So that's kind of like overthinking things in a way. You can't predict scores all the time, so I just want to predict the dub, and I'm going to take it from Jack Della.
Another high salary fighter that I found myself not getting to, and we'll see whether this plays out well or not for me, and that is Marina Moroz.
I don't think I have a single lineup with her, and I'm not playing aggressive like I normally do, just because I want to take a wait and see approach on this slate swap stuff. I have to tell you, I mean, I'm usually all in on every card, and for me, I don't want to get too aggressive on the first late swap card. But it could also work out where it's like, get aggressive now before everybody catches on. I'm just going to stick to the sidelines a little bit. Marina Moroz, a fighter in a fight in general that I just don't like. She has high volume, but outside of a high volume striking fight, I don't know if she pays off that price tag.
Of course, if you got any questions, line those up into the chat. I'll try to get through pretty much all these questions before we get out of here, kind of going back up to the top of the chat. Andrew goes, boys, help me stop drafting Lewis. I know everybody and their mother is on Spivac, but I see Lewis KOing him stiff. I mean, look, that's the one thing you just, and Derek Lewis's power, it's there in minute 1 and it could be there in minute 24.
Yeah, it's lasting power, and that's what makes it so scary. His power is there all the time, and you can't really project that. Like, you can't really project that power, because he could be losing 95% of the fight, and then boom. Similar to Jairzinho Rosenstruck, to be honest. Like, think of how he was against Alistair Overeem and dominated until the final 5 seconds of the fight, and then landed that massive combination, that massive right hand, and just ended up winning the fight. So you have to account for that a little bit and bump up your exposures and bump up your projection. But if results were based on skill all the time, I think that Sergey Spivac wins this fight 7 out of 10 times.
He should win this fight if he goes a takedown route. I just hope that the ego doesn't get in the way. He wants to try to get into a boxing matchup with Derek Lewis.
Yeah. I mean, that could happen.
Yeah. Let's see here. Get some other questions in here. Dane says they should allow one swap per lineup. That would solve the issue, in my opinion. I like that thought process, Dane. I like that.
Ooh, like
I don't think they'll do it, but I like that thought process.
I don't mind that at all.
Yeah.
Macy and I like. Listen, I got to talk about this real quick. I like Marina Moroz from a skill standpoint, but this is, let's call it what it is. It's a massive step up in competition. It's a massive step up in competition.
Mason, he goes, I like the idea of having fighters weigh in an hour before they fight. I do Muay Thai and it's hard enough on the body. I can't imagine doing a 25 pound weight cut then fighting. Commissions will never do that.
Yeah, it's not.
because the regulators know what will happen is
Mhm.
fighters will continue to massively weight cut, and now you're in a danger zone.
Yep.
It'll never happen. Never happen. Um, I think you'll if you start to see anything new happen with weight cutting, maybe more of a dehydration type testing that goes into it, more than there already is.
Yeah.
Um, two.
And listen, this is not an exciting card. It's not. It's probably going to deliver from a viewer standpoint, but from a name based, value based, ranking based standpoint, it's a Vegas card, and this is a typical COVID era card. So it's low faith throughout the entire time. If you want to get different than the field, leave 1,000 to 2,000 on the table. I think that's a perfect idea today. If you have lineups with 50,000, 49,900, I think you're going to dupe 50 to 100 times.
Thoughts on Andre Fialho?
I mean, I like his offensive striking, but I hate his durability and I hate his decision making. That camp is dealing with a lot of stuff right now, and it may seem silly, but it's not silly to me that, Anthony Rumble Johnson just passed away, which is a huge part of that camp. Not sure if Andre Fialho was really close to him, but I know that Ong Liang or Ong Long, Ong Song, whatever his name is, the guy from one FC that fought last night had a heavy heart. So
Yeah.
it was very tough on the entire camp. So this could be a situation where, it's more than fighting. And
Yeah.
Andre Fialho could use that as fuel to overperform expectations today.
Missed this question over from the score from Jay. He says DK GPP's favorite underdogs or KO high scoring players. I mean, look, the KO, you look right at the main event on both sides of that equation. Spivac obviously could get the fight to the ground, could get a submission, but I would expect it's more likely a TKO KO finish on the ground. Of course, Derek Lewis. Other ones I look at the matchup Fialho and Salkov. I think that you got a high probability that the winner of that matchup will win via TKO KO. I do like Jack Della Maddalena to win by TKO KO.
Mm-hmm.
Natalia Silva would be another one that sticks out to me as a potential TKO KO.
Yeah, I mean, I like Natalia Silva, and when I watched her, I thought of like this girl has contender written all over her. Now she's facing a fighter in Bleda who is huge. Like she's really big. So I am worried about the physicality. Jasmine Jasuda Vicious is pretty physical as well, but she brings a different grappling style than Teresa Bleda, where Teresa Bleda is really going to look towards traditional double legs and single legs to get her opponents down. So if Natalia Silva shows out today, then I am completely on board with her going forward.
Yeah, of course. Be sure to smash that like button. Let's get over 100 likes before we get out of here on this edition of the MMA Live for Lock Show. Of course, also be sure to take advantage of that promo BetMGM's got going on for you right now. All the details are below in the video description below, so be sure to take advantage of that. You can see right there at the lower of the screen of the offer that BetMGM does have for you, so be sure to take advantage of that when you want to bet on today's UFC Vegas 65. Of course, you got any questions, be sure to hit those up in the chat as well. And Pete, you brought up a great point, leaving salary on the table. If you leave 1,000, 2,000 on the table, I mean, look, also puts you in a good situation if you do want a late swap as well, if you got that much left on the table.
That's a good point. Very good point, Jason. And I kind of want to just bring this up real quick. Tokyo Swan says this is one of the hardest events in history to handicap. It is a difficult fight card. Like it is a difficult fight card. And even when I was making my best bets for Odd Shopper, I sat there and I'm like, all right, I am trying to avoid having somebody spoil this for me. Who's going to spoil it for me? And it's like, I have numerous people where I'm worried. You know what I mean? So be careful. And I think a great strategy today is just increase exposure to people that everybody's, avoiding. Like that's really like Brady Heastan, massive, massive chalk. I wouldn't mind getting to more Fernie Garcia, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. By the way, coming up right after us will be the NFL Strategy Show with Greg and Neil. So keep it locked here to Stokastic.com so you can check out those guys. They break down tomorrow's NFL slate. It's a bye week for me, Pete. So I'm gonna be enjoying the bye week. Enjoying that.
Yeah, you definitely enjoy it while it's, you know what I mean, because then it's the grind again.
Yeah. The grind is right back in. I'll be in Cleveland next week, and for the pay-per-view, I'll be doing live before lock from a hotel room in the San Francisco area.
There you go. What? We don't have a card next week, right? We have one following.
Correct. Yeah. The next card after this is the UFC Orlando card.
Oh boy, Orlando.
Cheap ticket, $170.
I was just gonna ask you, are you gonna go?
I can find a little bit of a cheaper ticket.
Yeah.
But I guess someone's got a 40th birthday, so I think I'm gonna probably go to that.
Yeah. You better just do it.
Yeah. Would you go Salikoff or Silva as the last person in for a GPP?
I'm gonna go Salikoff. I think that he has a high chance of finishing Fiallo today.
Let's try to get one more question in here before we get out of here. Before we get for NFL Strategy Show. Cash for DK Blida or Kutalaba?
For cash? Oh
yeah.
God. I guess for cash, I'm not going to recommend a UFC debut. So I'm going to say Kutalaba.
Of course, we appreciate everyone tuning in here for the MMA Live for Lock Show. Of course, be sure to check out PrizePicks and that great offer they have for Stokastic members and that great deal so you can sign up over there at PrizePicks. Coming up next is the NFL Strategy Show as Greg and Neil will get you ready for tomorrow's NFL slate. Hope everyone has a great weekend, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks for the UFC Orlando Live Before Lock. Have a good weekend, everybody.